The Resident Evils of the gaming world are definitely what take the top crown when it comes to horror games. But today is not about how much of an aura farmer Leon Kennedy is, or how you guys want Ada Wong to morph out of your screens and help you goon. I want to talk about games that have the same budget as the money I make on YouTube, but there's something about them, the world, the lore, the resolution, and how they approach storytelling to deliver a horror experience like no other. First in our list is Faith. Faith, the unholy trinity doesn't look like it has enough pixels to hurt you. That's the first mistake. You play as a priest, John Ward, which already sounds like the kind of name that comes with baggage. And it does. The game doesn't tell you immediately, but you can feel it pressing on every step you take. Nothing much is known about John Ward except for the fact that he is about to get absolutely brain screwed after the first hour of the game passes. John decides to go back to a house years later to make up for a failed exorcism of Amy Martin of the Martin family. The game opens like it's trying to downplay itself. A forest, a house, a cross in your hand, like it's just another tool. The entire time, John moves like someone who already knows how this ends because he is in a world where the knowledge of demons being real is rooted into his psyche. And the game keeps whispering that to you, not literally at first, just through space, through how empty everything is, through how doors don't feel like entrances, but like decisions. Then the voices start. Not voices exactly, more like something trying to remember how voices work. You'll hear phrases that feel religious but distorted, like scripture that's been bent. There's a girl at the center of it, Amy. Possession is the word the game uses, but that feels too clean for what's happening here. Because Faith doesn't frame this as a battle between good and evil. It feels more like a mistake that kept growing, and John might have helped it grow. The horror here isn't just the demon, it's the implication that maybe this didn't have to happen. Pets Cop. Pets Cop pretends to be a recording. That's important, because it gives you distance. You're not playing it. You're watching someone else go through it. At least that's what you're told. At the beginning, it feels harmless, almost nostalgic. Bright colors, soft music, a weird little system where you collect pets that don't look quite finished. Normally, this is just another Pokemon game. You catch pets, you store them, the guy who catches the most wins, and everyone goes home happy. But do not let the colors fool you. Like an early PlayStation game that ran out of budget halfway through development. Paul talks casually. He jokes. He treats it like a curiosity. Then he finds something, a door that shouldn't be there, a code that opens something that doesn't belong, and suddenly you realize this game is meant to be a message involving themes of abuse, cruelty, and revenge. The space opens up, and not in a good way. It becomes empty. Structured, but empty. Like someone built something very carefully, and then removed the reason for it. Paul's entire world is turned upside down as the game slowly reveals the message that is meant for him, but none of it is told directly. You as a player just won't understand it, but the moment you become Paul, the horror of it hits you like a truck. He just becomes quieter, more focused. Like he's not playing anymore, he's following something. There are characters in Pets Cop that feel less like NPCs and more like echoes. Names that repeat. References that don't get explained. Marvin, Care, Lena? You're not told who they are. You're shown fragments, enough to understand that something happened, but not enough to piece it together cleanly. And that's the trick. Pets Cop doesn't confuse you randomly, it confuses you specifically. It gives you just enough clarity to realize that this isn't fiction within the game. This feels like something real that got buried inside code. And Paul might not just be discovering it, he might be part of it. The environments are just there, but the quietness of it is what makes you supremely uncomfortable, especially after the shift happens. Flat textures, empty rooms, silent corridors that feel like they're waiting for something that already left. It's not horror in the traditional sense. It's more like watching someone slowly realize they're not alone in a place that shouldn't even exist. Mouthwashing. Mouthwashing might not be underrated anymore. At least in the indie horror scene, it has grown quite popular. But for the Resident Evil fans of the world, this game is still an afterthought. The setting is pretty simple. You follow the story of a crew that is basically DoorDash for space, and they have no idea what they are delivering. They have a pilot, a co-pilot, a nurse, a mechanic, and this guy for some reason. The game follows a visual novel sort of structure, but allows enough freedom for you to walk around as characters. You're just there to figure out the hidden monster of the game. And trust me, there is one. Way worse than any one-eyed, tentacled beast floating in space. The spaces feel like they belong to something. A workplace maybe, or a shared environment. But they've been distorted. Stretched slightly out of proportion, and the people inside it, if you can call them people, feel even worse. They're not characters in the usual sense. They feel like representations of something, fragments of personality, distorted reflections of relationships that don't quite function. The story follows this delivery team as they navigate what could be their final moments after they crash land into an unknown rock and find themselves stuck in their ship with no hope for help. Their captain Curly has been injured to a point where he cannot speak, but the entire time it feels as if he wants something to say, something important. There's tension here, but not the kind you can point at. More like the feeling you get when a conversation goes wrong and nobody acknowledges it. You walk through rooms that feel too personal, like you're intruding, and occasionally the game lets something slip. This is structured, just not in a way you're used to. You have to remember clues from each scene because the progress of the game is non-linear, and you have to piece everything together to know just what was actually happening in that ship, even before the crash. There are themes here like control, identity, maybe even guilt, but they're layered under so much distortion that you never get a clean read on them. And that's intentional. There is a feeling like there's something just out of reach that would explain everything if you could just hold on to it long enough or go back in time a few more seconds. But you can't, and the game knows that. That which gave chase. That which gave chase is bizarre even in this list. This game genuinely had me wondering what I was even doing. It just puts you somewhere and expects you to deal with it. There's no framing, no context. Just movement, forward movement into the vast whiteness of the Arctic. You play as a sled dog musher transporting a guy named the Scientist towards a Bloodborne remake. You just never reach where he's asking you to go. The environment feels wrong immediately, but not in a dramatic way. There are signs and clues very early in the game that something bigger is at play here, but you'll never guess what it is. And then there's the thing. You don't see it clearly, you're not supposed to, but you feel it. And that is exactly what the Scientist is leading you towards, but he feels too genuine at times for you to doubt him. There's a story here, technically. Something about being pursued, something about not escaping. But it's stripped down to the point where it becomes more of a concept than a narrative. You're not learning about a character, you're experiencing a condition, caused by things that are beyond human comprehension and by an entity you are not supposed to understand. Being chased, not by something visible, but by something inevitable. The longer you stay, the more it feels like the game isn't trying to scare you. It's trying to convince you that this is just how things are now, that there's no resolution waiting at the end. Just a continuation. And that's what makes it unsettling. Not the presence of something behind you, but the absence of any way out. Iron Lung. Thanks to Markiplier's movie, which freaking slapped by the way, the game has gained a massive audience now, but Iron Lung was still a true indie gem. Iron Lung is set in a universe where every known star and habitable planet has suddenly disappeared. No explanation, no warning, just gone. What's left are scattered moons and structures floating in space, with whatever survivors manage to cling onto them. Humanity is basically in cleanup mode, trying to figure out what's even left, and that's where you come in. You're not a hero. You're not a scientist. You're a convict, just a criminal without the slightest idea of anything related to astronomy. And instead of a sentence, you're given a deal. Get inside a small, barely functional submarine and explore an ocean discovered on one of these moons. The catch? The ocean is made of blood, and the submarine, the Iron Lung, was not built for this. The entire game takes place inside this one cramped metal box. You never step outside. You never get a proper view of the ocean. Everything you learn comes from instruments and a single black and white camera mounted on the front. Your job is simple on paper. You're given coordinates. You navigate to them manually. You stop. You take a photo. That's it. But the way the game delivers this is what makes it work. Movement is slow. You can't see where you're going. You rely on a map and rough positioning, which means half the time you're not even sure if you're heading in the right direction. Then you take a picture. Most of them show nothing useful and just grainy, dark images that could be anything. I guess this is where they've hidden the Bloodborne remake. But sometimes they don't. You'll start seeing shapes, massive structures buried in the ocean, things that look artificial, things that don't. And the worst part is, the game never confirms what you're looking at. It just shows you enough for your brain to start connecting dots that probably shouldn't be connected. There's also this constant sense that the submarine itself is not holding up well. It creaks, it strains. It feels temporary, like it was never meant to survive repeated dives into something like this. And as you go deeper into the coordinate list, the images start getting worse, closer, clearer, more specific. At some point, it stops feeling like you're documenting the ocean. It feels like the ocean is letting you get closer on purpose. And you still keep following instructions, because that's all your character really has. There's no escape plan, no alternate objective. Just a list of coordinates, and whatever is waiting at the next one. There's like a very intimate way in which these games are crafted. Unlike the AAAs or the big hitters, indie scene doesn't get enough budget. But they do not need that to make a special story, and that's what matters the most in these creations, the story.